Oh, man, you know what? I had myself muted. Man, that's fucked up. So, hey, check it out. Thank you, everybody, for jumping in here. I was going over the chat. We got Robert Pena in the house. We got Dirty 30. And we got Navy Vet along with D Menace, my brother. And, of course, Brave Raider, John Leon. Thank you all for showing up, man. This is your off-season episode number 11 right here on the Raider Critique. And we signed a tight end in Austin Hooper today. We've also signed a couple of tight ends since getting rid of Darren Waller. As a matter of fact, Austin Hooper's stats go like this. Now, first off, we're going to switch screens here. But Austin Hooper has actually been known for his play with the Falcons. He was with the Titans last year. And then he also played with the Browns the year prior. Now, right here on Google, okay, it showed that he had 41 receptions for 444 yards at a 10.8 yard average. 24 was his long, and he had 2 touchdowns on the year for the Titans. Now, the Browns, he had 38 receptions for 345 for 9.1, 34 being his long with 3 touchdowns. Now, the Browns he also played for in 2020. So he played for the Browns for 2 years. He had 46 receptions in 2020 for 435 at a 9.5 yard average, 36 being his long with 4 touchdowns. And for the Falcons, he was beasting. In 2019, he had, when at his peak as a Falcon, he had 787 yards receiving, 10.5 yard average, 35 long, and 6 touchdowns. Now, this is a good depth piece. More than likely, he will be competing for the starting job that is basically been vacated after trading Darren Waller. And then, of course, we also got a couple other guys through free agency, and I'm going to go ahead and show that while we are here as well. But first off, let me go ahead and get this kind of flipped around, because it would probably look better if I wasn't so small over here and I wasn't so cut off on the side. So let me go ahead and move on over to OBS. I'm actually thinking I'm going to like this setup a little bit better, because I can literally command it from OBS to where you can see my ugly face now. So this is Austin Hooper's stats, but also I want to stop sharing there and then present the other free agency signings that we picked up. And I think, it shows how many people that we picked up, how many holes we've tried to fill. So let me go ahead and share the screen on this here. This is from ESPN. Okay. Austin Hooper was our latest, which was a tight end. They have not come to terms yet. Then we picked up David Long Jr., a cornerback, who was formerly with the Los Angeles Rams. Then we have a wide receiver in Cam Sims, who previously played for the Washington Commanders. Now, he was a potential number 5, number 6 receiver type. So that pretty much tells you what he was. He's depth. Then we got Jaquan Johnson, safety, who played for the Buffalo Bills last season, and he signed the contract with the Raiders. Here was the other tight end we picked up, which was O.J. Howard. All right. And he previously played for the Houston Texans. Now, he's 6'6", 251. I know everybody really wants to hear about this dude. He is going to be a depth piece. But he has started 60 of the 74 career games in which he's played. And he's caught 129 passes for 1,882 yards and 17 touchdowns in his whole career. Jones Jesper Horsted. He joins. It's supposed to be joins, but this dude's obviously got dyslexia. Jesper Horsted and Cole Fotheringham is tight ends on the Raiders roster, so we still have Cole Fotheringham as well. So it looks like we'll be starting off with 4 tight ends, and of course a couple of those guys will get cut. We also picked up a defensive end in Jordan Willis. I do believe that we did that earlier today. And then we have a long snapper after we got rid of Trent Sieg because Trent Sieg got released. Jacob Bobenmeyer. And last video I said Jermaine Illuminor was cut. Obviously I was wrong. And I do apologize for being wrong on that. I should have known better. I was reading some bullshit on Instagram, and I really shouldn't have just even bought into that because I already knew that Jermaine Illuminor already re-signed with the team. But they re-signed Jermaine Illuminor. And then we also re-signed Horonis Grossu as center, Curtis Bolton, linebacker, Jerry Tillery, defensive tackle, basically our nose tackle, Roderick Teamer, Philip Dorsett, wide receiver who played for the Houston Texans. Jakob Johnson we re-signed, and then we picked up a linebacker in Robert Spillane. Now, woefully thin at linebacker, the Raiders addressed the inside thumper role with Spillane, who excels in run defense, but leaves more to be desired in pass coverage. So that's really all that I really need to read about that guy. Now, we still have Divine Diablo and Luke Masterson and Darian Butler, so Spillane will at least, come up as the fourth in there. And then, of course, the guy who gave away the game to us last year, Jacoby Myers, we picked him up from the Patriots on a $33 million 3-year deal. And then another Brandon Facion, and of course these are the guys that I went over on the last video. Marcus Epps, a safety, a 2-year deal worth $12 million. And then of course Jimmy Garoppolo. So these are all of our free agency signings to date right now. And from the look of it, Raider Nation, from the look of it, to me, it looks like that we will be addressing the defense in the draft, which is exactly what we need. It's exactly what we need. Now, I want to salute everybody in the chat, man. Anybody who's new. We got Herman Munster, man. It's good to see you. And then, of course, we got Brave Raider and everybody else. Robert Pena, John Leon, D Menace. It's all good to see my brothers in here. And really the major reason why I'm doing this video is because Mikey called out a lot of us content creators over YouTube. I believe it was yesterday or even possibly this morning. I don't know. All these days are really running together for me. So it's kind of just trying to figure out when he did it. But I'm going to go ahead and do it now because Dyrti came out with one this morning as well. Dyrti came out with a counter challenge that I'll also be explaining right here. And I'm going to go ahead and go over the first challenge that was issued by Mikey Raider to all of us content creators. Now, if you have not heard that challenge, you can go over to Raider Central right here on YouTube, Mikey Raider's channel, and you can go listen to it for yourself. But I can also give you a brief rundown here, which is what I'm going to do. Mikey Raider issued a content creator challenge to basically state how we became Raider fans. So you guys are going to actually hear my Raider story. Now, I've also told it on many other channels, but I don't believe I've ever told it here, which is actually kind of funny since it's my own platform. So here it goes, man. Let me go ahead and lower the light because my face looks like really hella bright. And it don't need to be that bright. Lower the light a little bit. Kind of set the mood right here for the little story that I've got. Because I love actually telling this story. The reason why I'm a Raider and how I became a Raider fan. Now, a lot of you guys have probably heard this already. If you've ventured into Raider Nation Network, or you have ventured in onto Raider Ben's channel, or you've even possibly ventured in when I've done interviews with Death Star Report on how I became a Raider. Well, I am from a small town south of Fresno. It's probably not too small anymore because it was blowing up by the time I left. Surrounded by a naval air station in Lemoore, California. Now, I grew up there out in the Island District. All right, we're a bunch of farm kids. And if it was one thing that we knew how to do, man, it was the one thing that we knew how to do was ball. And we dominated every year throughout grade school. Every year I played on the team. Our team was just that badass. Now, you know, living in that area in California, you normally only have two teams to watch because nobody's watching the Chargers and nobody back then was really watching the Rams, even when the Rams were winning with Jim Everett. You know what I mean? It was either the Raiders or it was the Niners. Okay? And I know you guys have already probably heard this on other people's rebuttals as well, on their testimonial, if you will, is that really, in all actuality, I was torn in between two worlds because my mother's side was 49er fans. My father's side were Raiders fans. And me starting off, I was a football fan, a player fan, if you will. I loved watching all football. I was into playing football. I played the fullback position for Island Union Elementary. And we had the fastest running back in the league in Chris Martin. And I was, graced on being able to block for him. Now, in order to hone my game, I watched a lot of football. You know, I watched the powerhouse 49ers when they were wrecking shop back in the 80s with Rice in Montana. And I also got the pleasure of watching the best backfield in football in Bo Jackson and Marcus Allen running over defensive players, running the Raiders into victory. Now, my mother's side was from Mill Valley. My father's side was pretty much from Richmond. You know, that's where most of them lived when they moved out from where their family originated from. And it was complete war when it always came to Raiders and 49ers. And to be honest, back then I was biased. Just watched both teams. I liked to watch football, and it was all up until I was about 11, 1991. Because I really started watching football roughly about 7 years old. About 1986, 3 years after the Raiders won their last championship. And my brother was a Charger fan. There was no way I was ever going to be a Charger fan. Now, the one thing about my brother is he was the one who, he was the guy I looked up to. All right? But he was also my main enemy that I competed up against because he was so badass at sports. The only thing I ever wanted to do was to be as good or better than he was. And that's real. That's real. He was a Charger fan. And I laughed my ass off at him when they lost to the 49ers in the Super Bowl, when they were blasted by Steve Young and Jerry Rice and Terrell Owens and the rest of that damn team. I laughed my ass off watching him lose and just watching that guy sit there and cry about how the Chargers lost. Man, I always knew the Chargers sucked. I also knew that I was never going to be a Charger fan for the simple fact that my dad used to work when we lived in San Diego, which is where I was born. He used to work on CB radios for the San Diego Chargers. And he said he hated every single one of those motherfuckers, except for maybe a couple, because they were all a bunch of dicks. Now, my aunt ran a bar in Richmond where John Matuzak and Lyle Alzado used to frequent. And I've got pictures and proof to show you guys on that because I still do have that in my Google Drive. That's how deep it ran. But it wasn't up until about 1991 when I went to this thing that, you know, most towns still have, but nobody really goes to them anymore. It's where you go get books. It's called a library. You know, back then we didn't have internet in 91. It wasn't, we didn't have internet at all. Hell, we didn't even have cell phones. You know, we went to a library. You would go to a library or you would go to school and read their books for all the information that you could possibly get. And I got 2 books that day. I got a book that was, because it was still a toss-up on who I was going to root for, because I'm in between both my father's and my mother's family. And I really didn't like my mother's family all that much. Maybe just a couple of them. But everybody in my father's family, just fucking cool. Everybody in my father's family is fucking cool. All my cousins were cool. All my aunts were cool. All my uncles were cool. All of my dad's side, My mom's side, maybe a couple. Maybe a couple. But it wasn't until that fateful day that I went to the library. I checked out 2 books. And it was the history of the San Francisco 49ers for the first book. And then the second book I got was the history of Al Davis and the Los Angeles Raiders. Now, the funny thing about this story is I read and I skimmed through that book of the 49ers and just kind of read about their history, and nothing really stood out to me. Nothing really grasped me as a person. You know what I mean? It didn't grab me. Now, what did grab me was when I opened up that book about the history of Al Davis. How he was as a man, and how they portrayed him in that book as being the lone maverick who would stand up against all odds to make sure that injustice wasn't going to happen. From all the stories that I read in that book, the one that stood out to me the most was how he was the AFL commissioner. Okay, now a lot of people don't even talk about that. But when he was the AFL commissioner, when there was 2 leagues of football, the NFL and the AFL, and when the merger happened, Al Davis was pretty much outvoted out of his own league to merge with the NFL to create the NFL that we now experience today. And Al Davis went ahead and signed off on it. He didn't have any choice. He was outvoted. But he asked to take his greatest and strongest AFL team and be their coach. And that team is the Raiders. Don't forget your legacy, Raider Nation. Don't forget where this regime comes from. Don't forget how this team was made. Al Davis swore up and down that he would take his nastiest, strongest AFL team and dominate the NFL, and that he did. That was the start of Al Davis versus the NFL. It wasn't about whatever the hell his name was in Al Davis, the old commissioner, Pete Rozelle. It all started when he was outvoted, and he was bound and determined to dominate with his best team. That right there is the type of man I want to be. Against all odds, with everything stacked against you, to still step up, play your ass off, and win. When everything's stacked against you, and I've taken these ways from seeing our Godfather Al Davis and reading his stories and seeing how he prevailed. And I took that and I applied that to my own life. And you know what I do? I just win. I just win. This team, this legacy is all built by a man that we should all look up to. And it wasn't Mark. It was Al. And how this organization and team is built. It's not because the colors are cool, because the colors are really cool, but it's not because of that. It's not because we dress out every Sunday. Some of us dress out every day when it's football season. It's not just that. It's the camaraderie of family, the acceptance of all size, shapes, and colors, and ethnic and religious beliefs, all in one area, embracing one another, celebrating our legacy, which is to win, with everything stacked against us. To take our lumps, we might go down, but we're never out. To keep striving and driving and take them out. Even if it's little by little. But by the end of the damn game, we need to be in the W column. Now, this team has not done that in quite a while. Although we did do it 2 seasons ago and went to the playoffs where we utterly suffered defeat in the first round. But it wasn't like this last season. If the team can't win, at least we can win, and we can preserve that legacy that Al would want us to preserve. The reason why I'm a Raider is because it's what I believe in. A slogan like "Just Win, Baby," and "By Any Means," and the commitment to excellence are not just slogans of a football team. It's a way of life. And I'm sitting here as living proof that if you commit to excellence and you commit to yourself and you believe in yourself, you can dominate anything. And that's why I'm a Raider. Because if Al could do it, that's the man that I aspire to be. And my father raised me exactly that way. To have respect, honesty, loyalty, and integrity. Be proud of who you are. Because nobody does it better than us. Nobody does it better than us. And we show it every game. We show it in the parking lot. We show it when we see each other in the store. We embrace one another. We don't care if other teams are, we don't care about other teams' fan bases because for real, man, other teams' fan bases, they will never be like us. They can always try to portray us, but they will never be us. And we also need to stop letting them infiltrate on our fan base as well. If they do not believe in the Raider way, then they don't belong here. We've let a lot of these cats in. Now I'm going to go over to Dyrti's counter challenge. Now, Dyrti's counter challenge. Why did I become a content creator? And there's also a second part to that challenge as well that I'll address as soon as I get done saying this. Now, everybody's already heard this story too if you've been on Raider Nation Network and you've been on Raider Ben's channel. The reason why I became a content creator is because we never got any love by the mainstream media. They didn't care about us. They didn't care about the team. And anytime we'd ever hear anything about them, it was always something negative. But they weren't explaining why they were being negative. Now, I didn't hear about the first really publicized Raiders YouTuber until about 2014. Happens to be Mikey Raider. He had over 30,000 subs when YouTube finally connected me with him, and you guys know I have been here since 2009. YouTube was really slacking when it came to starting combining content creators. The reason why I became a content creator is I believed that Raider Nation deserved to hear about their team. And if mainstream media wasn't going to give it, then I was. And I was going to give it with my own opinion. without being swayed by anybody else that I may speak to about the Raiders. It was all opinions by me, a vlogging channel. A vlogging channel is what it started off being. And I wound up turning it into a show, which that story will come later. Now, I know that that's not a very long answer when it comes to why I became a content creator, but that's why I became a content creator, man. I wanted more news, and I was going to do anything I could at my disposal to get it. Now, I was live streaming back then through First Row Sports. Now, I know a couple of you cats, if you were back here back in the day, you know all about First Row Sports. You know what I'm saying? That's where I used to stream the games from, and I would post them right here on this channel for everybody to watch. I would just flip the screen. Because I was really just trying to get all of y'all any of the content that you could possibly get. Because I know some of us back then, back in the day, bro, we weren't getting content. We weren't even getting the games. Hell, my homeboy Dre was still listening to the games through the radio with Greg Papa. You know? And that is, like, really the reason why I became a content creator. Now, the aspirations did change as Raider Nation YouTube started to develop. And I realized that I wasn't the only one out here doing this. When I first found Mikey Raider was back in 2015, I believe it was. I believe it was 2015. I was ecstatic. I was ecstatic that there was somebody else out here to talk Raiders with. That wasn't that wasn't Raiders Scream, or it wasn't Raider MC Square, or it wasn't anybody in my chapter. In the Black Hole Fort Hood chapter. You know, that's what I was looking for. And now I had somebody, and of course back in the day, bro, I only had like 30 subs. You know, I don't even think I hit 100 until, hell, like last year. You know, I had like 30 subs, but, you know, I finally got to start, you know, thinking, oh, wow, I can actually start, you know, collaborating with a lot of these other YouTubers if there's any more out there. And then I met Raider Ben, and I met Hardcore Raider. And they had a thing going through StreamYard, which made it even better. You know what I mean? And then I was dealing with cats, you know, after that, you know, dealing with Grimy Raider Dave and Watts Raider, and, you know, and dealing with Mikey and dealing with Murph from Raiders Fan Radio. It was nice. And dealing with Raider Cody when we did that show with Raider Cody on the Hardcore Raider Nation podcast. You know, I got to meet Q. You know what I mean? Like, the reason why I became a content creator, it started off small, and the reason why I wanted to do it was because, you know, I just wanted y'all to get the news as good as I could probably explain it. And when more people started coming out, it's like, wow, now I can bounce ideas off of people. And now I can collaborate with other people. So it made it even better. You know what I'm saying? And then the plethora of Raiders YouTube after the COVID pandemic hit, and I disappeared for a while because I had family issues. I had to Raider up and go win that shit. You know, and then when I come back, there's a plethora of Raider content creators. A lot more people to collaborate with, that's for sure. And a lot of different ideas, which when I first came out with this channel, the very first thing that I was always harping about was, this is what I think. Please change my mind. And now everybody's got a voice who's got a computer or a telephone or a cell phone to be able to come do it, and it proves it right now. Look at everybody here in the chat. And if I even hopped up and even posted the damn link, some of y'all could even jump in here. You guys make Raiders YouTube badass, but if it wasn't for dudes like Mikey Raider, Raiders YouTube wouldn't have got as big as it is. And that's why I am definitely replying to this content creator challenge. Because unlike some of us out there, I do have respect. And I've got respect for Mikey. I got hella respect for Mikey. Because when it comes to the true GOAT of Raiders YouTube, He might not be everybody's favorite, but Mikey is the GOAT of Raiders YouTube. And when the GOAT asks for something, the only question I have is, when do you want it done? And that's out of respect, because he opened up the door for a lot of us. He opened up the door for a lot of us, and a lot of us are out there. There's a couple of us out there who are making hand over fist money because of what he created. Now, the second part of Dyrti's challenge was that anybody who is monetized, because you guys get paid by YouTube, all right, that you guys would have to put up 10% of your earnings from your paycheck, from your YouTube paycheck, 10% of what you earn, and dump it into a charity of your choice, Raider affiliated, and you got to do it live. Now I'm not monetized. I actually kind of thrive on not being monetized, because I don't have anybody in here telling me what I can say. And I think that's the beauty of not being monetized. I also don't have those worthless ads that come up on my channel for no damn reason, wasting y'all's time before you can hit the damn skip ad button to come and watch the content. But what I will do is that whichever charity Dyrti contributes to on his 10%, I'll throw in money through my Cash App going straight to that donation as well. And I'll do it live, and we'll even do it on Raider Nation Network if need be. Now, even though I'm not monetized, I do believe that I owe Raider Nation a lot, because without Raider Nation, I wouldn't have 577 subscribers. Without any of you, I wouldn't have a show to come on here and do a show for. And without any of you, I would be speaking to this camera to nobody in the chat. YouTube, if it's one thing I can honestly say, all right, and I do a lot of bitching on here, I do want to thank YouTube for quite a few things. And I don't think anybody really goes and shouts them out too much, because I do hear a lot of harping, and I even do a lot of complaining about, you know, their guidelines and whatnot, and their bullying and their policies. But I want to thank YouTube for all of you. I want to thank YouTube for all of you, because if it wasn't for YouTube, I wouldn't have got to meet all of you. And I wouldn't have got to collaborate with a lot of you, man. Raider Ben, Hardcore Raider, Grimy Raider Dave, Watts Raider, OG, Luna, Dyrti, my brothers, man. You know, MG, Mike Guerrero, and then of course Dirty Low. You know, my brothers, man. You know, and even, you know, a few guys like Hammer. I love sitting down and talking with y'all. But, you know, I mean, and I love being able to sit down with dudes like Jack Kenna. I just love being able to talk with Raider Nation. And I want to thank YouTube for making that possible, that I was able to meet Stuart Schwaggart. I've actually got to sit down with Stuart Schwaggart and talk to him. He was one of my favorite safeties back in the days when we had Nnamdi Asomugha on Stanford Route. Our defense was pretty much the only thing that we talked about back then. And Stuart Schwaggart was one of my favorite players. I actually got to meet him. You see what I'm saying? Like, how many times could we have ever done this back in the day if it wasn't for YouTube? You know? We get to meet dudes that we used to watch on our television, man. My girl talks about it all the time because she was a real huge fan of Salute Your Shorts. Got to meet Mikey Raider. You know, I know Mikey Raider on a completely different aspect because it's through this Raiders YouTube. I don't really know him for his career back when he was a childhood star. You know, and there's podcasts out there that explain that. But I got to meet dudes like him. I got to meet like people like all of y'all, man. I got to meet super fans like Violator and speak with him. Got to meet You know, Keon Myers, dude, your boy Q on Locked On Raiders and Raider Nation Radio. Got to meet dudes like Murph. I mean, you guys make this worthwhile. So for real, man, like, if anything, I'm humbled and I'm appreciative of everything that you guys do for your support, man, coming in here and viewing the channel. You know, I salute y'all, man. For real, y'all are the reason why Raider Nation is so strong. We just got to weed out the bad ones. All right, because those bad ones are bringing bad juju. And that's real talk. So I encourage all y'all content creators out there, come out here and tell everybody why you became a content creator and why you're a Raider to begin with. And I'm going to tell you right now, man, there's going to be a lot of different answers, but you're going to be able to tell in between fake and real. Because Raider Nation knows their own. Straight up, man. That's why I fuck with all y'all, bro. You got 577 of the realest motherfuckers you ever met. And I would rather go to bat and go to battle back to back with 577 of y'all real motherfuckers than 10,000 weak fake ass bitches. And that's real fucking talk. That's real talk, man. So anyway, I'm going to hop on out of here. I appreciate all y'all for stopping by, man. And the next video I wind up doing, yes, it's been a long time coming, but finally I am going to fulfill one of the milestones for this channel right here on the Raider Critique. And I'm going to let y'all know more about that. If you watched my last video, you already know what I'm talking about. But I've got the GOAT who's going to be coming on this channel and telling all of us about his YouTube story. And I've been guaranteed that he's going to show up. All we got to do is just get everything lined up. It's probably going to happen within the next couple of weeks. So until then, Raider Nation, man, enjoy what we've got going on here. The team might not be able to win right now, but I know mostly Raider Nation, we're winning. You know what I'm saying? We're winning. And remember to keep Al right here. Because remember, Al isn't going to steer us wrong. At least young Al wouldn't. And we got to start thinking more like Al, especially since his son won't. Al didn't drink the corporate Kool-Aid. And neither do I. So until then, man, it's Raider Nation for life.